Well, online shopping has been the go-to for many people since the pandemic primarily, but some retailers are trying to breathe new life into brick and mortar locations by evolving into community hubs.
Having a third space is something different than work or home. So like a coffee shop, a gym. I think this is more than a trend.
Platforms like Eventbrite have seen huge increases of in-person meetups, with the website reporting an 82% jump of events made solely for the purpose of making friends. These are taking place in what's come to be known as a third space, such as a run club or group events, and particularly in concept stores. And businesses are now starting to reap the rewards. So with more on how third spaces are changing the in-store experience, I'm joined this morning by a good friend of the show, retail expert Doug Stevens. He's joining us from Ancaster this morning. Hello, this is not your third space. You're in probably your second space, right?
Yeah, and predominantly my first space these days. That's right, yeah.
Okay, for people who are new to this term, explain a little more. What is a third space, and how are retailers using them to try and not only create a sense of community, but reap back some of the financial losses?
Yeah, great question. So a lot of viewers will understand the concept that Starbucks really brought to the market, which was this idea of the third space, being that we have home, we have work, and then when we're in neither of those places, we have this third space, sort of a communal gathering space where we can get together with friends or with members of the community. And this is really carried over into retail. In Anne-Marie, it's really carried over because retailers certainly face a lot of challenges. You mentioned it in the introduction that really this is the store these days. You know, we hold the store in the palm of our hands, and every form of media that we come in contact with today is really a direct path to purchase. It's a direct path to retail. And so it's really raised the question, well, if that's the case, then what's the purpose of a physical store? And retailers are coming over to this idea that physical stores are a really powerful form of media that allows them to reach audiences of consumers and communities of interest and bring those consumers into their spaces for really powerful physical immersive experiences. And it also allows them to sidestep a lot of the problems that they're having in legacy and digital media, which is becoming increasingly expensive and also decreasingly effective in reaching consumers today.
I think this concept is fascinating. Typically, third spaces had been, like, as you pointed out, a coffee shop or a restaurant. And I think it's fascinating that retailers are trying to create this in their stores. More than half of Canadians do still prefer to shop online, but how have retailers figured out, you know, they're not serving food and drink, so what are they doing to pump up this in-store experience and get people back out of their house?
Yeah, great question. And there really are some interesting things going on. You know, in Sherway Mall, for example, in the Toronto area, Canada Goose has a store called the Canada Goose Journey Store.
Oh, I've seen it.
And have you been there? Yeah, it's fantastic, right? So it's really almost like a theatrical, immersive physical experience is the best way I can put it. You go in, there's a 360-degree theatrical experience, so you experience sort of the heritage and the history of Canada Goose, and then they've created this cold room with snow and ice where you can actually put on Canada Goose garments and go in and test those garments in those conditions. Skechers has recently just opened a new concept store in the Toronto area as well. Skechers, the shoe brand, where they're going to be featuring pickleball courts, basketball courts. So this sort of transition between the old retail stores that we used to know where we would just go and simply buy something to this new place where we can go in and actually have fun and experience the product in its natural setting is what we're now seeing more and more of.
I find that pivot fascinating, that they figured out what's missing in the online experience is the experience and trying to make that the thing. So a 2022 report saw this shift in consumer behavior. There's more interest, as we were just saying, in experiences than in the products themselves. So is that part of social media? Like, why have customers' priorities changed?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. You know, when you think about it, we are on average these days spending anywhere from, 4 to 8 hours a day connected to devices, looking at screens. And so it's really become increasingly important that consumers are saying, look, I need to disconnect. And this is particularly true among young consumers. You would sort of think that this would sort of tip towards older consumers, but in fact, it's Gen Z that is saying, hey, I really need physical social contact. And so we're seeing young people really going back to retail, but not going back to retail for their grandmother's retail experience. It's really for these new kinds of blends of entertainment and social experiences.
Well, I love knowing the why behind changes like this. Doug Stevens, thanks for bringing this to us. Have a good weekend.
My pleasure. You too.
If you liked that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.